Hello Mayans and welcome back to my channel. Or if this is your first time watching, I'm Blvd Maia, and I talk about everything in my asexual, transgender, lesbian life that you would really like to know about but are afraid to ask. Although this week is the reverse of that. It's something that some of you haven't been afraid to ask me, but I've been afraid to answer. And in all honesty, I never wanted to make this video. I'm not a confrontational person by nature, and I never make reaction videos to other YouTubers. But then recently, Storm Ryan, a transgender YouTuber, made an incredibly brave video where he apologized for his past involvement with Arielle Scarcella. And when he did that, I realized that all along I've been running away from the truth. That my own decision not to acknowledge my past involvement with Arielle Scarcella and put out just positive videos about being transgender was probably done more out of fear than anything else. And I have good reason to be afraid. At this point, she's got about 50 times my subscriber base and a whole army of terfs as her followers. But after Ryan's video, I decided I couldn't just leave them hanging out there as the lone voice. And also that by staying silent, I'm doing a huge disservice to not only the trans community, but more importantly you, my audience. And for that, I apologize. So let me just state for the record that Arielle and I are no longer friends, and that in my experience, everything that Ryan said in his video is 100% true. And that is that Arielle uses transgender people as tokens on her channel for credibility. And I know that saying that might actually lose me some friends, and all I can do is put on my big girl panties and remember that I actually have true friends and of course family who all love me. And that even if I get canceled, I have a pretty amazing life besides YouTube, and this doesn't pay the bills. Now, why are Arielle and I no longer friends? Well, for that we have to go back to the beginning. And the way we met is through a mutual friend who contacted me when she was in town with other YouTubers during Playlist. And she wanted to know if I could put her and some other friends on the list for the club. Now, one of those friends was Arielle, and Arielle came right up front to the stage, and of course I immediately recognized her. And I brought her up onto the stage because I also knew that she had a crush on one of the dancers. And then throughout the night we just kind of seemed to hit it off, and I actually ended up driving her all the way back to the Playlist hotel. And then the next morning we had brunch, and she suddenly decided to change her plans and stay in town for a little while. And she ended up actually crashing at my place for like 10 days. And from then we actually became really good friends. We would hang out all the time. Whenever she was in town, we'd go to dinner, or I'd hang out with her mom. I mean, when she moved into her condo in Fort Lauderdale, I went to IKEA with her, and then I helped her build her furniture. That's some major lesbian bonding right there. Now, of course, at the time I knew she had a reputation for being problematic when it came to transgender issues, but I felt that a lot of that was actually because she was misunderstood to some extent, and I knew personally that she treated me as she would any other woman and any other lesbian. She never misgendered me or anything like that. And I also liked that she seemed to be open to input from me whenever I would tell her something about transgender people or something she didn't get quite right in her latest video. Like there was a time that she and Jacqueline made this video that was not flattering at all for non-binary people. And she listened, in fact, to the extent that she actually made an apology video that she posted a couple days later. And then somewhere along the line, she also encouraged me to start my own channel. And I really enjoyed making videos for it, even back then when I only had 400 subscribers. Then one day I noticed a little mini trend going on YouTube where all these lesbians and all these gay guys were showing each other their genitalia. Brie and Chrissy had done it, and Stevie Bobby had done it, and Arielle had also done it with a gay friend of hers. I texted her and I said, you know what I haven't seen? I haven't seen transgender lesbian shows her vagina to a cisgender lesbian. And she went crazy at that idea. She thought it was tremendous. And then she begged me to be in it, which was never my idea. I did not want to do that. I have a whole lot of body insecurities, and if you've ever seen that video, you'll notice that I'm wearing a red robe. And that's just so I would feel comfortable on camera. At least as comfortable as you can be when you're about to show your vagina to somebody. And that video went viral. It started getting 100,000 views and 200,000 and 500,000. And then pretty soon it was at 1 million. And all of a sudden my subscriber base went from 400 to a couple thousand. And I was, and I still am, grateful to her for all that. This channel would not be what it is today without that video. But unlike all the other collaborations between lesbians and gay men, for some reason Arielle decided that she didn't want to make that video on my channel. That was the beginning of a pattern I would notice from that point forward, where she would ask me to do videos on her channel. I was kind of like one of her designated trans friends, but she really wouldn't reciprocate with a collaboration on my channel, at least beyond some cameos she would do. In the power dynamic of our friendship, she was definitely the big YouTuber who held all the cards. In fact, the one and only true collaboration we ever did was that vagina video, and that was way back in October of 2016. Not that she never did anything for me. In fact, she brought me as her +1 a couple times at Playlist, and she introduced me to a lot of YouTube creators. And she was also there for advice on my channel in general. But of course, she would also also asked something of me beyond the videos, and one of those things was to defend her against people who online were calling her transphobic. And she called me out until I did it. And of course, she was my friend, and I knew she had some points of view that I didn't exactly agree with, but I also knew that she saw me and other transgender people as their authentic identities. The thing is that TERFs would often come for me when I would post on Arielle's behalf, and then when I brought it up to Arielle, she would just tell me to ignore them. But she never defended me in the way she wanted me to defend her. And she didn't take her own advice. When critics would come for her, she wouldn't ignore them. She only expected me to do that. And it took me way too long to realize that the supportive things that she would say to me in private were not things she was willing to say to her own audience in public. And then over the years, I started noticing another pattern, which was that she would be friends with an LGBTQ creator or somehow admire them. But then a lot of the time, she would end up souring on them after they called her out. And we're talking basically the leading LGBTQ creators on YouTube. And of course, that group just got larger and larger as her content started drifting more and more to the right wing and got more divisive. And after a while, that started to isolate me because there'd be very few creators in the LGBTQ space that I could collaborate with that she would be okay with. Now, I gotta say, in the beginning, I think Arielle was just woefully ignorant of the practical lives of transgender people. You could see that in her videos, and a lot of transgender people came for her. And I think that criticism wounded her much more than she ever let on. And at the same time, the turfier elements of her audience would love bomb her, especially as her content started picking up more and more of their talking points. And of course, we all want to be loved. That's what feels good. And we're going to drift towards things that get us love. Really, what she is a study in TERF radicalization. And the more her content started going that way, the higher her subscriber numbers came. It revitalized her channel. Now, of course, all along I'm talking to her. In fact, you should see the epic text walls we sent back and forth to each other. I'm telling her about the things that I don't agree with. And what I didn't realize was that Ryan and other transgender YouTubers were also doing the same thing with her. And she became more and more closed off. She stopped listening. And what I learned from that is that education is not always the key to somebody who's not open to learning. What she and J.K. Rowling, for that matter, have done is essentially join a kind of cult, where it doesn't matter the number of studies and statistics that you show them that counter their arguments. What they actually need is deprogramming. And I was very slow to recognize that as well, because I'm the kind of person who likes to see the better side of people. And she genuinely thinks she's doing the right thing. She thinks she's defending lesbians against trans ideology. She thinks she's defending the entire gay community. And nobody is the villain of their own story. And of course, our relationship just got naturally more strained until that one event happened that just ended it. And that happened a little over a year ago when I went to VidCon in Anaheim, because I had won a VidCon creator grant. And to increase my chances of basically speaking to a YouTuber who knows a lot more than I do and actually operates in the same space that I do, I entered my name in for everybody, including one creator that Arielle absolutely hates. And of course, that was the creator that I actually won the lottery for. And I actually took a selfie with her, and then I posted it on my Instagram story. I only wanted it up a little while in a place where Arielle really doesn't go very often, but of course she saw it. And she really laid into me and sent me all these things saying like, how could I do this, etc., etc. And then at that point she told me she didn't want to yell at me, so she was going to basically cool off later on and then get back to me. So I said fine, and I gave her space. I didn't try reaching out to her at all, except for her birthday last July. I told her happy birthday. She said thank you with an exclamation point, and that is the last time that Arielle and I have ever spoken. I saw her briefly at Orlando Pride. She was on the float that I was on, and she was also in the club that I go to all the time. But we didn't speak. And of course, over the last year, her content has just gotten more and more turfy. She takes the most extreme examples of bad behavior amongst the transgender community and then elevates them and gives them a platform. I'm not sure why she does that, except that it makes it seem like we are all like that. And of course, she doesn't train that critical eye on her own cisgender lesbian community. Like the two lesbians who packed their van full of all their adopted children and then drove them off a cliff in California. That is an awful thing to do, obviously, but would that be an argument for not allowing gay people to adopt? No. I think that Arielle would recognize, and I recognize, that that is an extreme case. It is not representative of lesbians in general. And as her content has gotten more and more transphobic over time, I have found that I just can't look at it anymore. Just the titles and the thumbnails was enough to kind of invoke an extreme anxiety reaction in me. So I started unfollowing her and muting her where I could, because I didn't really want to upset her by seeing seeing that I had unsubscribed or had defriended her. But all throughout, I still held a sliver of hope because I had seen how she had been with me in the past. But then not very long ago, she made a video with Blvd, and my phone started blowing up from people texting me. Because in the video, Blvd shows Arielle her vagina, and Arielle started comparing her vagina to mine. She was saying things like, well, the only other transgender woman's vagina I've ever seen is not as realistic as this. And I was like, wow, how could she say that about me? How could she say that about anybody? How could she be so critical about another woman's body without a hint of remorse or regret? How could she make all this content without giving one thought to her transgender friends and how it might affect them? And then of course has come the announcement that she has left the so-called progressive left. She's decided to go full-on MAGA supporter of Trump. And then after that, in the Blvd video, I gave up all hope and I decided to basically block her and unfriend her everywhere. And that's when I found out that she had already blocked me. Which I gotta say was very, very liberating. I suddenly felt free, like a weight had been taken off my shoulders. And so that's it. That's how the cookie crumbled, as a friend of mine recently put it. And I decided to make this video after Ryan made his video because I realized I really owed it to all of you. And I know there are a lot of other LGBTQ YouTubers who feel the same way about her but haven't made videos about it. So we're hardly alone, but I didn't want Ryan to be alone, at least in this. And I really don't care if Arielle never sees this video because this video isn't for her, it's for you. It's what you think of it and what you think of me. Those are the things that I care about. And even if she makes a response video, I'm not gonna watch it and I'm not gonna respond to it. And if her followers come for me, I'm not gonna reply to them. I'm just gonna block, block, block. But even after all that's happened, I don't hate Arielle. She just makes me very, very sad because she's taken this tremendous platform that she's been given and then used it to tear down an entire community. She may not see it that way, but that's the truth. And from this point forward, I'm not gonna engage in things that I find personally damaging or toxic. I just never thought that Arielle would be one of those things. So that's where I'm going to end my video. And if any of you have anything you want to share, please put them in the comments below. As always, my social media is also down below. And if any of you have a dime to spare, please consider supporting me through my Patreon. And on that note, please like this video by giving it a thumbs up. Please share this video and please subscribe. And see you around the interwebs.